Hello, friend. It's Hannele Korhonen here with another episode of the Freedom Pivot podcast. Thank you so much for listening. My guest today is Suvi Siira, who spent 15 years in corporate strategy doing all the right things. But then something happened and she did the radical thing. She stopped and asked herself a question she had been avoiding. What do I actually need? Today, Suvi is a life enthusiast, solopreneur, and a coach who helps people create lasting change through something most change management never addresses: emotional safety. If you're standing at the edge of change while your brain screams no, but your heart whispers yes, this one is for you. Here's Suvi. Hi, Suvi. Welcome to the Freedom Pivot podcast.
Thank you, Hannele, and thank you inviting me. I'm very, very honored that you invited me here today with this topic that we have.
Thank you. And thank you for accepting the invitation because, I've been following you for a while, and I feel that what you talk about change and the way you talk about change is something that we don't, because you talk about safety, which we will talk about today. And I think that that is not addressed enough when it comes to business and entrepreneurship. And that's why I'm so happy that you accepted the invitation. But before we go into the topic itself, I'd love for you to introduce yourself, who you are and what you do.
That's the my biggest fear always, that I need to introduce myself. I think that's where my adrenaline and my safety gets a little bit like trampled, because always when you're introducing yourself, you're thinking that, who am I really? What I want to bring to this table, what I want to say about myself. A bit of a small identity crisis
Yeah,
every time.
every time.
Yeah. And I told you beforehand that I didn't practice. I usually practice for these kind of presentations and when I'm speaking, but I didn't practice this time. So let's dive into what I want to say today. I am at the moment, I am an entrepreneur. I'm a coach. I love exploring new stuff, and at the moment I'm exploring astrology. I'm mom of two, little boy and girl. I think I am kind of, how do you say, life enthusiastic in a way. I love just explore what this life has to offer to me. And I'm in a path right now where I'm exploring new things and changing, and yet kind of rooting myself into the emotional safety and self-worth. Those topics just come up to me right now.
Life enthusiast. What a lovely, lovely word. And when you say that you are a coach, who do you help and how do you help them?
I do personal coaching and I work with change. I work with sustainable and lasting change. I help people to grow more towards what's meaningful for them and what's their, I don't know if it's sole purpose is the right term, but what's everyone's like values and purpose in life. And it can be like small incremental changes, or it can be great changes. It depends on the individual itself, where you are at and where you want to move forward to. Yeah.
The name of the podcast is Freedom Pivot, and I'm wondering what has been your pivot? What brought you to this work and being an entrepreneur?
That's a very, very, very good question. And I love this topic because what I do as a work right now is totally and connected and 100% connected to what I've experienced um, in my life. And I think it has been a long time coming where I started to kind of freedom pivoting, the more baby steps that I took earlier in my career. But I used to be business, working in the business development, strategy, um, change management. My career was in corporate world, and I was or I am Master of Science in technology. So it started, small steps started when I was experiencing a burnout in I think 10 years ago. I think that wakened me up a bit, that what's going on? Am I doing the right things? Who am I actually? Who am I? But I think the biggest realization happened to me when I was 38 years old, like a couple years back. And I was coming back to work. I was already back at the time. I was entrepreneur, but I was entrepreneur in this change management field and consultancy field. And I was coming back from maternity leave, and I gave birth to my baby girl. It was something that changed me. Or I didn't think it changed me, but it changed the perception of me. I don't think we change in a way ourselves, but we change the how we see ourselves, and we
And what
take
stories we tell about ourselves too.
exactly,
Mm.
we change the belief systems, and we take, for instance, life gives us layers. I think that we put layers and masks and roles to it on top of our core, and I think that that birth just kind of was a catalyst to me to start understanding more what's beneath those roles and layers. And there was this moment of realization when I came back to work that I'm 90% of the time in full blown panic or bored. And I didn't realize that earlier. But when I started to kind of processing and looking back to my career as business development manager or whatever I've been before, I started to realize that this is a pattern for me, that always when I'm working and doing business, I'm 90% of the time in panic, and my body is in panic.
So interesting.
So
Why was it? Why do you think? Or did you find out the
yeah,
reason?
I started to, well, noticing that was a big moment. Like, what the hell is going on? Why am I being in panic? I started to understand that my heart rate was speeding up. I was doing regular meetings, not a lion jumping from the copy room. I was meeting people. I was doing this for 15 years. I know my stuff. I know the strategy. I know the building blocks. I know what I'm talking. I I'm used to presenting things. I'm used to doing Excels and PowerPoints. But my hands were shaking. I was in cold sweat. I didn't have my appetite. And I started to realize that this has been always like this. That this has been always like this. And once I was burned out, that it was getting really heavy on my system. And I started to realize that if I'm going to continue like this, I'm going to be the grumpy old lady when I retire, or I don't even get to retire, that my body doesn't manage to do it so long. Because if I sit down with my laptop 8 hours a day just in panic, I don't think my system will be able to manage that for an eternity or 20 years from now on. So I started to think that, okay, this is not a good thing. This is not something that I want to pass to my kids. Seeing my boy and girl to grow up, I don't want to see them to panic at work. And I started to think that, okay, something is keeping me in this mode because I've been in therapy for 5 years. I've been working on stuff, but I just couldn't see what is keeping me in this cycle. And that was the trigger for me to trying to find out that what does it mean to make a lasting change, that I want to do a lasting change for my kids, for myself, and I want to be able to crack the code that is beneath this behavior and why my being is stuck like this. Yeah.
And what did you find out when you started to explore that question?
I started to find out, well, that time also I was diagnosed with ADHD. And I think that was also something that was giving me a moment of realization that who am I actually being? Why am I being like this? Who am I pleasing? Why do I think like this? And what is the real me inside all these roles? And I don't think that people need to be diagnosed with anything to kind of to start thinking these thoughts and asking these questions. But for me, it was kind of the trigger also that, okay, I have this kind of quality in me, and I've been always masking that. I've been always trying to manage in the world with normal people. What is normal anyway?
Normal, whatever that means. Mhm.
Yeah. But back in the day, I was thinking that everybody else are normal. I'm the abnormal here. Now I don't think that, but I was thinking that how am I being like trying to change myself and be something else? And I started to realize that what if I for once start to think what I'm good at and what is what is the kind of my self-worth without like how do you say it, without attaching it to
Mm.
something else, attaching it to someone else's perception of me. And that was my big aha moment or light bulb moment that I realized that that's why I've been working so hard, because I try to please everybody so that I've been accepted. And I started to realize that that's not how I think. That's not how I think about my daughter. She was born with this self-worth. She doesn't have to do anything to be worthy. Why I have to do something to be worthy? And I started to realize that all my career, I I struggled with this, that I try to kind of I wanna so desperately feel that being worthy and do the right thing and be expert at something, that someone is from the outside telling me that, okay, so now you're being worthy enough. And even though you get the credit from your work, it's like I think it's like a black hole. It doesn't like fill up the emptiness of that self-worth craving what I experienced. So no matter how much credit I could get from my work, it would never take me there. So this was something that when I realized this, I started to think that, aha, okay, and this is something that I want to grasp onto, and I don't want to kind of let this thought just slip away, and then me going back to doing what I've been always doing. And I sought for help. I went to, for instance, myself, I took a coach. I wanted to um, work on this belief system that I've created to myself. And also another thing that I did back then, before I became a coach and do all this stuff, I started to let go of things. I started to create a space because I was lost. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know that, yeah, now I'm going to be a personal coach and I'm going to coach people to with lasting change. I didn't have a clue. I didn't have a clue at that time what I actually liked. So I needed the space kind of clear things up to see what is lighting me up. And it sounds crazy when I say it, but I think a lot of people are experiencing this same thing, that they are so hung up onto what they're doing in their own cycles that they kind of forget about themselves. And if we stop them in the street and say that, what do you need? I don't know.
That's a radical question. You mean what I need? I know what everybody else needs, but what do I need?
Exactly. I know what my child needs. I think I know what my husband needs. And everybody else in the work, I know what they need. And that's a harder question still.
Mm.
And that's the question that I ask, I think the most of the time I ask with my clients, what do you need?
And then you became a coach, but what did that was that the pivotal moment that you realized this people pleasing structure and all of those beliefs and the way you were able to shift that, or was that the pivot that you when you became a coach, or was that just a process that followed the pivotal moment of realizing that okay, this is I need to stop and change my belief
Mm,
system?
I think that was the start of the pivotal freedom pivot to me. I remember that I didn't have a clue that what I'm going to be. And I thought to myself that now for once, so we don't have a plan. You're a strategy consultant, just don't have a plan right now. Because repeating the same things that you've done so far got you the same place again and again and again.
Exactly.
So let's try something else. So I think the freedom pivotal moment started when I realized that, okay, my self-worth is not linked to what others see. I need to remember my self-worth, and I want to change. That was the start of it. But what followed was that I gave myself space, and then I started to say yes to things that actually I said yes to only those things that I really wanted to say yes. I started to kind of be really, really go into myself and hear my inner voice and kind of my bodily reactions, that is this something that I really, really, really want? Or is this something that I'm trying to escape from, something that I'm not kind of wanting anymore? So I found out that there was this in integrative health coach school, and I started to feel I I I just gravitated towards that school. I felt that everything that was in the curriculum was something that I've always enjoyed that. And I remembered back in my career, because when you're a business consultant or business development manager, whatever, coaching is business coaching, for instance, that wasn't unfamiliar to me. I remember that is a method that I really really liked myself. I liked using the method in my trainings. But when I was doing like change in organizational level, I felt always that something is coming from top down, that something is feeding top down to people's behavior, their patterns of work, their thinking. And I started to think that actually what I want to be working with is something from bottom up, that people are kind of finding their meaning and the truth and the potential within themselves without any kind of structure or framework, narrowing it down that, okay, you can change, but you have this box where you change because it's our company policy, you know?
And don't change too much because then that's inconvenient for us.
Yes, because then you might leave and we don't want that. No, I love also the kind of corporate world. It taught me much, but I started to feel those boxes too narrow for myself at that time. So I went to that school, and I started the school more of that's something for me. I'm exploring myself. I don't know if I'm going to make a profession and be a health coach. But in the midway to the school, I started to realize that, okay, I'm going to do this. And I was working as an entrepreneur in program or projects. It was really long project, and I just started to say to my teammates that, sorry, but I gotta do this instead. That I'm not sure. I might be regretting this later on. I have no knowledge of where am I gonna get the clients, how I'm gonna get the clients. Am I gonna be good at it? How do you run a different business that I've used to running? And I remember uh, this person who I was working with, or my client, saying that, okay, but they are all Master of Science. Okay, so you don't want to work in this project anymore, but what about this project? Or what about this project? You could work in this project. And I said, like, I know, but I just can't explain this, but I just can't. And it was weird moment for me because I was burned out earlier and I couldn't physically work like 10 years ago. I remember that feeling. I wanted to. My head was spinning like 1,000 cycles in per second and I just wanted to work. And this time I was just everything in my body was like, I just can't. I'm so sorry. And there's nothing wrong with this. I don't know. I can't pinpoint you what is wrong, but I just know in my body that I can't. I need to follow this through what I'm what I want to follow.
Mm.
I guess it's like heart speaking.
And then you were ready to listen.
I was ready to listen
Mm.
and I just jumped off. I just said that, okay, maybe I'd be crawling back to your door and saying that please hire me back one day, but because I don't know. But now I feel like I need to do this. So I jumped off and I was scared. For me, I later on I realized that for me, everybody said you're so courage. My coworkers, they were encouraging me. I'm so grateful that they were all also how do you say encouraging.
Encouraging. Mm.
Yeah, they even bought me stones. Like they bought me this stone
Oh.
book of how to do like mental um, wow. It was a book about how do you see yourself, the perception of yourself. So I was courage, and people were asking that, where do you find this courage to do this? And I said that I don't have the courage. Later on, I understood that, yeah, I did have the courage, but to me, it meant back in the days that you are not scared when you are courage or when you are brave. And later on, I understand that is a total different thing. You are brave, and then probably you are scared as F, and then you just anyways do it.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
bravery or courage nowadays to me.
Yeah, it's super scary. And then, as you so beautifully describe it, there's no other way. I mean, of course, it's a choice, but then when you listen to your body and when you listen to your heart, it kind of becomes inevitable.
Mm, mm.
So you
In
talk,
in a
yeah,
way, when you have this feeling, in a way, it's easy and hard at the same time. It's easy because you know it so well that, okay, I can't just lie to this feeling. Okay, I could pretend 3 more months and I would be physically very ill, but you kind of know it. But it's still hard because it's a leap of faith. It's like you have the curtains and you just don't know what's behind the curtains.
exactly. I think this relates to the topic of emotional safety, right?
Yeah, it does very much because I've learned also that the courage and the courage is uh, that the scaring is not existing. It is scaring and courage is co-linked, or they are together. But also, how do you manage to do that is that you are strengthening your emotional safety. And I think that if I knew this earlier in my career, that every change needs emotional safety, I don't know how successful I would have been.
I believe that you needed those experiences to be able to talk about this, but
Me too. But it's just a little piece of me is curious. Like, if I knew it that back then, how successful I would have been, like doing this project and that project. Because everything it comes down to emotional safety. I don't think that any change, sustainable and lasting change, won't work if you don't have uh, the emotional safety with you.
what do you mean by emotional safety? What does it mean for you?
It means to me a state of mind and body and nervous system where you are at balance in your nervous system, where your body regulates and balances itself in an optimum way. And it doesn't mean that there is not a panic, for instance, or like that flight or fight or freeze modes are non-existent. It doesn't mean that, but it means that your body kind of fluctuates in different states easily, and it regulates itself. So when you need to panic, you will panic. But when you need to calm down, you will calm down. And to me, that's emotional safety when this works in harmony, so that you have all these pieces together in balance.
That's such a great way to put it. Uh, it's like when when you are cooking, that
Mm.
you can put the stove off because you know that when you need it to be hot, you can turn it on, but you don't have to hold it like at 1 or 2 just in case
Mm.
you need your body or your system to react to something.
Mm. Yeah, but because in when we are in balance, of course we need to react. There will be like danger at some time to time. You need to jump off the road when car is speeding towards you. So the healthy system will just tell you to react when it's time to react. But it doesn't like when you're imbalanced then, or when your emotional safety is not when you don't have that much emotional safety within you, then your reactions, for instance, you have this radiator, it's not radiator, radar in your
Radar, you mean, like
that radar.
tutka?
The danger radar is a little bit broken and it's screaming all the time, even though you don't have anything to be worrying about, like mine was.
Yeah, when you said that you were 90% of the time you were panicking.
Mm.
So what does emotional safety look like for you now in your
Mm.
life? How does it show up in your life now?
I feel like this is one thing also that I learned uh, like during this journey today, where I'm at today, that I used to think in the beginning that it's also like on off switch, that you either have the emotional safety or you don't have, or you either have the change or you don't have. That's not how it works. I think that for instance, now I'm renovating a workplace where I can meet up with my clients, and it's a new thing. I've never had a workplace where I meet up with clients earlier. It's a totally new thing, and I'm having this daily day crisis. I was yesterday evening in crisis that, oh my God, nobody's going to show up. It's going to be a disaster. I'm not going to be able to renovate it. It's just abort the mission. And today I'm like, of course I'm going to be renovating. It's going to be great. It's going to be nice. It's in very nice area where I have a lot of potential clients. It's a smart idea. And we might go to the evening again where I'm all again like let's just skip it. I'm going to tell them that I'm not gonna rent the place. So coming back to your question about how do I see it today, is that I can maybe a metaphor that I think the emotional safety is like a container. And I used to have like really small container, like the size of this cup. And when I was facing something that I was not happy about, or there was something giving me bad feelings, or some hardship, the container was so small that it spilled up quite easily. Like the storm in the container was quite big from small obstacle. And working with my clients are working with myself, with my emotional safety, is largening that container, making it more large. So I don't know what the size of the container is now, but now it can contain more, and it can absorb more of those hard feelings. And of course, also that you've kind of taught your nervous system that you're going to get through when you repeat things enough times. Your nervous system will also learn that, okay, these are the feelings that I get when I'm in change. When I'm experiencing something new, I will be always panicking for a moment, and then it will pass on, like the cloud in the sky. They will not stick there forever. So my answer short is evolving. My emotional safety is evolving.
Yeah, and to have this awareness, I can imagine that the awareness alone is a big thing, that you understand that this panic mode is not, first of all, it's completely normal. And then, second of all, it doesn't mean that I will always be in a panic mode,
Mm.
but it means that this is now, of course, you need to pay attention to it, maybe, but not like just abort. mission whenever you get that
Mm,
panic mode on.
mm. And one thing that we need to remember of our brain and nervous system is that change is always a threat. It is always a threat. Whatever this change is it going to, you're going to learn a new skill? You're going to do something that is really good for your healthy? You're going to start a new hobby or whatever. It's always a threat because your nervous system has categorized this current state as safe, that it's the safest that it can get because it has the evidence that this current state hasn't killed you yet. And your nervous system, like everything, it's going to, the only purpose of it's keeping you safe, keeping you alive. So that's why we don't, for instance, this is extreme example, but about toxic relationships. From outside, we can scream that, why don't you leave? Don't go back. No, she went back. Why? And it's because it's safe for the nervous system. So it's really hard for us, even with our like conscious mind telling us ourselves that yes, yes, the change is good. So it's really hard to follow that through because your nervous system is very, very powerful. If it starts to say that, okay, this is not safe, it triggers so bad emotions and so bad thoughts that even though you thought this was a good idea, you start to really, really second question yourself. And so that's why I think mm, it is super important to work with emotional safety so that you have the methods and tools to tranquil yourself and kind of know, not just knowing that this will pass by, but also know what to do when those moments hit you and hit you really hard.
Mm. And what I hear you say is also to have some empathy for yourself, that the nervous system is trying to keep you safe. So it's nothing to feel guilty about or blame yourself or try to fight your system, because it's all trying to, I don't know, work for you, but maybe there haven't been good enough tools to then regulate the system in a way
Mm,
that is then maybe key to this lasting change that you talk about.
mm. I think you're so right. I think that's the one of the key lessons for myself, that compassion is the, I think it's the strongest medicine when your body is reacting in panic and in any ways, but I think it's the strongest medicine to that, to kind of regulate your body, because in that moment your brain doesn't tell your body, your conscious mind doesn't tell your body that it's nothing, there's nothing to be worried about. It doesn't work like that. We need to work on our somatic level, and also compassion is something that is really soothing your nerves when you're very compassionate for yourself or about yourself.
What do you do nowadays when you have a hard day? How do you regulate yourself, or how do you, I don't know, pamper yourself to get over those rough patches?
It depends a lot. Sometimes I just go on with the full panic for a while
You allow yourself to, okay, bring it on.
and forget about all the tools that I'm teaching to others, because that's human. I think we're all human, and I think that's so normal. And I want to speak also more about the normality of things, that I don't think nobody's a guru in a way. Of course, people are more, well, yeah, there might be more advanced people than me, but for myself, I can say that, yeah, it's totally normal just to be in panic and do all the wrong stuff. And then remember that, oh, yeah, okay, this was something that I was supposed to do, but okay. But there are various of stuff because our nervous system is also that sometimes you're in flight or fight mode, which is quite, it's mobilizing state of being. And then some tricks work better than others. So things that immobilizes and calms you down work better. And sometimes your nervous system went to freeze mode. And then you need to mobilize things a bit. So sometimes sports can work, and other times it doesn't work. Sometimes cold plunges work, but other times it doesn't work. Sometimes meditation works. For me, rarely.
ADHD.
Yeah. But I've also learned that meditation is not just sitting and
Sure.
absorbing your thoughts and emotions. You can do that also in a lot of ways. And sometimes sauna works, sometimes walking in the nature and connection to the nature works. But I think that my favorite like tips and tricks are connected to connection to yourself or another people, because we are regulating our systems together. And that's how we are born with. Babies, they don't regulate systems alone. So that is really, really strong. If you have someone to kind of seek the connection with, I think that's really powerful. And sometimes it's not a human being, it's animal. And also something that's working with your body, that you're starting to, for instance, what is this word? Senses. Concentrate in your senses. Like really started to feel how your hands feel together. What do you actually see? Describing it to yourself or someone else really, really in detail, that like you're a child and you see that first time. And that's really effective when we work with our body and we work with our nervous system in connection to someone else. But I think there are million ways with the nervous system, and everybody has their favorites, and I think everyone will find a good way for themselves. And they are different. I think that's also good to remember, that if someone is saying that cold plunges is their thing, don't feel guilty if you don't get it. It's just not might be your thing.
I love that. I love that. Don't feel guilty if if some some of these practices are not for you, because you will find your own.
What is your favorite things to do to
Well,
make
I
it?
like to take the cold plunges several times a week,
Yeah.
going to sauna and then to the cold pool and going back and forth. That's
Yeah.
definitely one of them. But I also love the way you describe the connection, because many times we feel that we have to solve these things on our own. And it's very, I mean, we are hardwired to seek connection, and that is actually built
Mm.
in all of us, that we can talk to other people or we can sit with our pet just to have connection with another being.
Mm.
That's really powerful and so simple. And then many times we just rather take our mobile phone and just start doom scrolling and then feel even worse after that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think our society somehow is feeding us to kind of being the independent woman, or independent person and not relying to other people. And it's scary. It is really scary to rely on other people because sometimes you get charged, you get instructions or tips what you didn't even ask for. So it's not a simple thing to seek for the connection, not always. But I think that, yeah, I think it's very powerful when you have that person or someone, even animal,
Mm,
where you can just be for a moment in the presence.
exactly.
Mm.
Before we end this conversation, because I want to build on that, and I'd like for you to speak to people who are thinking about getting a coach. What would you like to say to them if they have some hesitation or questions, or what would you say about getting your own coach? Because you have been coached yourself and now you are coaching others.
Mm. Yeah, I understand the hesitation 100% because it's also like a relationship, and it's a relationship where you start to trust another person. And I think I think you have to be really responsible as a coach also for that relationship. And how do you coach people, or be how do you um, be the kind of be with the person in their journey, and respect their journey, because it's not your journey, it's theirs journey. But I feel like with this change and all the obstacles that you have with change, because change will always rise you these panic feelings. And what I also think is that changing is, you always have to let go of something. You just don't add up and change without letting go of something. And when you let go of something, we often go in the subconscious mind, some belief systems that we have underneath. And as human beings, we don't want to get in there many times, because it gives us this very nasty feeling that something that we kept as a truth for maybe 30 years of our lives is suddenly maybe not true. And very often our conscious minds is protecting us of that, because it gives us it is disruptive in a way, and it just different kind of emotions keep pouring up in that kind of process when you are cracking your belief systems and started to understand what you are not. And kind of it's a messy road sometimes, because you're started to understand, this was not true, maybe this isn't true, and this isn't true, and what is true, and
Yeah, your whole life as you know it is kind of like crumbling and sometimes even collapsing.
so we tend not to go there because it's hard. So it's nice to have someone to kind of be there with you, that okay, but let's still look back to that a bit with a tenderness, not in a like a harsh mode, but with kindness and compassion, that what is in there. And also when you get these hard emotions, that you have someone to lean on, and kind of when you're in the middle of the ocean, you have your way where you want to go, but you're in the middle of the ocean and it's dark and it's stormy. You have someone in the, what is it called? Talkie.
Lighthouse. Oh,
Talk.
walkie-talkie. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You have someone in your walkie-talkie, like you say, am I going to the right
SOS, SOS.
SOS? Am I going to the right direction? I don't feel like it. And someone's like, it's all good. You're going in the right direction. It's all part of the process. Trust the
Mm,
process. And
totally.
you can have coach, you can have therapist, you can have like someone in your life. But what I would say that please surround yourself with right people, with right mindset, that people that actually see the path, that they see that you can go through this stuff. It's your own path, nobody knows what's there, but they know the process, they know what is normal, and they can tell you that it's all part of the process. Don't worry, you'll get there.
I can imagine you being in my walkie-talkie and being so calming and reassuring that everything is going to be okay.
Mm.
Where can people find more information about you, and how can they connect with you if they want to learn more?
Well, I have a new webpage. My name, www.suvisiira.fi. So there you can find me and my services, and you can book me, for instance, a free coaching session. I like to always talk like a good amount of time with persons who are thinking that they might take a journey with me, because it's um, it's a moment where you can actually kind of see that, okay, what is the chemistry? Is this what I'm offering you good for you? And vice versa, are you ready for this kind of thing? So you can book session for me. And also you can find me in Instagram, my name at Suvi Siira. I share my thoughts, sometimes random thoughts, and thoughts of this emotional safety, regulation, change, sustainable change. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm make sure to put all of those links to the show notes so that everybody can find you. Thank you so much for making time for this talk. Super talk, a super important talk. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And I'm now like eager to hear your side of the story. I'm like, where I get to ask these questions from you. I need to do
Exactly.
my own podcast and
Exactly.
invite you to
To get my
get
side of it. Mm.
yes. And I will do that. Thanks to you, I have now the courage to do that, to do my own podcast as well.
I'm looking forward to that.
Mm.
Thank you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye bye. And thank you for everyone listening and watching us and spending their time with us.